Right. I have not done this in a long time. Has it now been like 3 years since a video was posted on this channel? Hi guys, Alex here from ALEXEIR Studios. That's right, we are now officially a brand, which is crazy. I just wanted to take a minute and talk to you guys because I have not posted on this channel for 3 years, yet you guys have kept it alive all this time. I mean, this channel was growing. This whole time I wasn't doing anything. You guys have really inspired me to come back and commit to it fully this time. So thanks to your support, I was able to establish my own brand and production company, ALEXEIR Studios, and I have so much in store for you guys, you have no idea. So thank you a million times, and I don't know what else to say. I'm just really grateful. And now, without further ado, let's move on to the tutorial. Today, as you all saw, we're taking a look at a blind eye effect from Game of Thrones. It's not a particularly hard effect to create or to film. I don't really even have any tips to film it, to be honest, because it's literally just an eye effect. The only thing I will say is that I was really impressed with how much your actors' facial expressions change the entire look of this effect. So someone properly acting as if they're actually blind and like, I don't know, it does add a lot to the clip. I suppose that's relevant for any production in general. But yeah, it really did take it to the next level, I think. And I was really fortunate to work on this with a professional actress, Megan, who you will be seeing a lot of in the coming videos. Megan is my friend and a really talented actress. I will leave all her links down below, so make sure to check her out. And before we jump into After Effects, it would really help the channel out if you could please subscribe, like the video, and click on the notification bell so that you don't miss any of the future uploads. By the way guys, I completely forgot to mention that this raw footage with Megan that I filmed will be linked in the description down below, so you guys can download it and practice along with the tutorial. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to look through the clip and I'm going to find a frame where the eyes are clearly visible. The best frame would be where the iris of the eye is completely visible. Next, we will be taking things to Photoshop, so we need to save this frame that you have found. We are going to do that by clicking Composition, Save Frame As, and File. You can adjust the settings however you want by clicking Render Settings or Output Module, but we do need to render it as a Photoshop sequence. And on the screen you can see the settings I usually go with. So the way this is going to work is we are going to create the effect itself in Photoshop, then we're going to track the iris of the eye in After Effects, and later we're just going to be compositing everything together. If you take a look at the actual reference still from Game of Thrones, you can see that this effect is basically the iris is still visible, but it's just foggy, yet you can see the reflection in the eye. So the way we're going to do this in Photoshop is we are going to use a frequency and separation action, which is commonly used for retouching, but today, well, we're going to be using it for visual effects. It's actually my own method that I came up with. Well, at least I haven't seen anyone do that, so today I'm sharing that with you. For those of you watching who are not familiar with retouching, the way frequency and separation action basically works is you have two layers of your image, one layer being blurry and the other one being sharp. And the idea is that when you combine those two layers, you get your normal image. Unfortunately, frequency and separation is not a built-in action in Photoshop, so you will need to find it somewhere online or make it yourself. I will try my best to find the action online and link it down below, so make sure to check the description in case I left it there. I will do my best. The link is probably gonna be down below unless I'm unable to find it. Once you have the action selected, press play and you will see a pop-up window that is going to ask you to enter the blur amount. Now this is going to be individual for every single clip, so do not enter the same settings as I am, but you can definitely use the amount of blur that I have as a visual reference and just try to do something similar with your footage. As you can see, we have this folder looking thing and we have two layers, low frequency and high frequency. Low frequency is the blurry layer that I mentioned and high frequency is the sharp one. Next, you're going to want to click on this band-aid looking thingy, which is called Healing Brush, and that's what we're going to be using to actually paint out the eye and create this soggy kind of iris effect. Adjust the size of the brush and using Alt on your keyboard, just sample areas of the white part of the eye and use those parts to paint on top of the iris. Do the same thing for the second eye. Okay, once you're done, you can turn the high frequency layer back on, and you can see that the detail in the iris is still preserved. But we do see that sharp line around the iris, and there's just too much detail, so I want to smooth that out. I am once again going to sample white parts of the eye and carefully paint around the circle, like the outlines of the iris. But it's really important that you leave the highlights alone, the highlights of the eye, so because we will need them and they are supposed to stay there. So do not paint them out. Then I am going to create a new layer and change the blending mode to color. Click on the color icon and sample the color from the white parts of the eye. I am then going to use that color we selected and paint on top of the iris to kind of make the entire eye the same color, more or less. You can also sample the color from different parts of the eye and paint different colors in different areas because the shadows change the color a little bit. It looks a little bit too strong now, so I will reduce the opacity to something like 45%. Next, we are going to create another trick that is used in retouching, but I am going to use it for a different purpose. It's called dodge and burn, where basically you have a layer of highlights and layer of shadows, and you use them to kind of, well, in retouching it's used to retouch obviously, but we're going to do something else with it. So create a new curves layer and create a highlight curve. I am also setting the blending mode to luminosity. And do the same thing, but with the shadow. I'm going to reduce the opacity to something like 75%. I'm going to reduce the flow setting of the brush to something like 6%. So first I'm going to use the highlight curve, and I am just using it to brighten the highlights of the eye, and also I'm just going to be playing around with the look and, you know, just painting randomly around the eye, kind of making it more foggy. And if you look at the reference tool again, you can clearly see that some parts are just randomly brighter, some are darker. So this is what we're going to do with those two layers. Some parts are just going to be brighter, some are darker. So just do that. Just paint in random places. I'm also painting inside of the iris because in the reference it's also like the iris, you can see the outline of it, but it's kind of foggy inside. So I'm just going to apply some highlights inside of the iris so that it's not black. And do the same thing with the shadow layer. Just paint in random places, maybe highlight the outline of the iris a little bit, make it a little bit darker, but basically just play around with the look. The outline of the pupil still seemed a little bit too sharp for me, so I created a new layer, pressed image, apply image, and using the healing brush, I'm just going to carefully smooth the outlines a little bit. You can add more highlights or shadow layers if you want. So the next thing I'm going to do, and this really helped to solve the effect, is I'm going to create a new layer and sample the color from the white parts of the eye. Reduce the flow setting of the brush to something like 16 and just randomly paint in different areas of the iris. You can see that I'm sampling the color from different parts of the eye. And this is so that we have a little bit more realism because, again, the shadow. Reduce the opacity of the layer so that it's not that strong. And next, I want to make the highlights pop a little bit more, so I'm going to create a new layer. Then I'm going to change the color to white. Double-click on the layer, and you will see that the layer style window pops up. Uncheck the transparency shapes layer box and click OK. Next, you're going to want to change the blending mode to color dodge. Reduce the flow of the brush to something like 3% and just paint over the highlights. You can see that really makes them pop and stand out. Reduce the opacity if it's too strong. Great, our work in Photoshop is done, so just make sure to save your image as a PNG file. We're back in After Effects, and next we need to track the eyes. First, I'm going to track the iris, and I'm going to do that by using the Spot Clone Tracker plugin from Red Giant. This is a really cool plugin that is awesome at tracking things. I use it all the time. However, if you do not have it, then that's okay. Just use the built-in tracker feature in After Effects. I will be showing my process using the Spot Clone Tracker. So first, change the spot opacity to 0, change track spot to position, scale, and rotation, and select faster tracking. Adjust the scale to match the iris, and track backwards or forward, doesn't matter. So the thing with my footage is the actress blinks a few times, so obviously the tracker isn't gonna pick that up because the eye kind of disappears. I don't know. So for the moments when she blinks and the eyes are closed, I will need to position the tracker manually. So I will delete the keyframes, adjust them manually, and just continue tracking after. You will need to track the second eye as well, and I'm going to do that by using the Clone From feature. I will change the setting to explicitly and uncheck the Match Spot Size box to adjust the scale. Go through the same tracking process, adjust the keyframes manually where needed. So now both of the pupils are tracked, but we also need to track the white parts of the eye. So I'm going to apply a second Spot Clone Tracker effect, and this time is going to be a bit easier because we don't need to animate the blinking. I'm just going to track those outside parts of the eye. I have no idea what they're called, to be honest. But yeah, basically anything you see where you can track the white parts, just track that. Once you have done that, we can go to the next step, which is masking. So I will need to create 2 solid layers, and I will rename one right eye and second one left eye. I will then need to open up the position parameters for both of those layers. And for both layers, I will need to parent the position to Spot Clone Tracker. Both solids are for the white parts of the eye, basically for the entire eye. So we'll need to parent them to the second Spot Clone Tracker effect. One has to be parented to Spot Center and the second one to Clone From. The difference between them is obviously using Spot Center, you were tracking either left or right eye. And with Clone From, you were tracking either, again, left or right eye. Depends on how you've done it. Great, now you can hide the visibility of those layers and select the mask tool. You will need to create a precise mask around the eye. It has to be as precise as possible. Open up the mask path setting, and I'm afraid this is going to be the most annoying part of this tutorial. You will need to manually animate the mask path for the entire clip. Hopefully, since it's tracked, you won't need to do as much work, but you will still need to animate it. And of course, we'll need to adjust the masks where the actor blinks. Now we're gonna do the same thing for the second layer. Well, congrats. For me at least, it was the hardest part of creating this effect, so it's over now. Next, we can drag the PNG image we created in Photoshop to our timeline, and we'll need to find the frame that we rendered it from. I forgot to say this before, but I added a marker, as you can see on the timeline, on the frame which I rendered, so that made it really easy to just go back to that frame. Next, open up the position parameter for the image. Next, duplicate the image. You can once again rename the layers to right and left eye. We will now need to parent the position once again to spot clone tracker, but this time the first spot clone tracker. Again, spot center was right or left eye, clone from was the other eye. Once you parent the position, you can see that the image changed position, obviously. So we'll need to put it back somehow. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to press A on the keyboard while the image is selected. This will open up the anchor point parameter, and we will basically need to manually position the image back to where it was. If you can see those little squares on each side of the frame, the way I can see if the image is positioned exactly back to where it was is I make sure that these little squares are exactly in the middle of the outline of the frame. So next, select the images and put the right eye layer beneath the right eye solid and left eye layer beneath the left eye solid. In the tracking mat of the image layer, select the solids. So for the right eye image, select the right eye solid, and for the left eye image, select the left eye solid as a track mat. Now select the pen tool and create a rough circle mask around the iris on the image layer. You're going to want to feather them out a little bit, and you can also change the mask expansion settings. I set the mask feather to 12, but this will be individual for every clip. Just make sure to feather it a little bit. Now, you might not need to do this step, but in my case, the actress kind of moves her head closer to the camera than back again, and kind of, yeah, there's a little bit of movement. So if you see that there's any kind of movement and you need to scale things up or adjust the position, then you can create the anchor point and scale keyframes or rotation keyframes if you need to adjust rotation, and you'll need to go through the entire clip and manually adjust those settings. You might not need to do this next step too, but in my case, again, the actress kind of moves her head up and down also a little bit, which creates shadow, which creates the change of lighting in the eyes. So I'll go back to the frame that I exported for Photoshop, and I will apply a curves effect. I will then set the keyframe and go through the entire clip to see where I need to change the light. I will animate curves to match the lighting in the clip, so in some parts I'll make it darker and in some parts brighter. You can just copy the animated curves effect and apply it to the other eye. Okay, next step, again, you might not need to do this for your clip, but in my case, as the actress moves her head, there is also a little bit of blur in the eyes. The eyes kind of go in and out of focus, so I will need to add a blur effect to match whatever's going on in the clip. For that, I am using Sapphire's Rag Defocus. Is that what it's called? Yeah. It's a really cool plugin, but if you don't have it, then just use any blur effect in After Effects. There are plenty of built-in ones. For example, Fast Blur, Gaussian Blur, or anything else. I will create a keyframe and animate the blur settings for the entire clip. Also, as you can see, when the actress blinks, our iris image doesn't disappear, and we need it to disappear, of course. So I will simply create a few opacity keyframes and just make the opacity 0 when she blinks. If you feel like the curves effect that you created was too strong, you can just click on the compositing options and lower the opacity. Okay, this is already looking pretty good, but now we just need to do more things to make it look more realistic. And the first thing I'm noticing is, because obviously it's an image, it doesn't have any grain as the original clip does. So I will apply a match grain effect. I will choose the original raw clip as the source layer, and I will change preview to final result. If you want, you can open up the tweaking panel and adjust settings to make the grain more visible or less visible. Next, I added a CC composite effect and changed the mode to exclusion. then set the opacity to something like 25%. As I was looking through the clip, I noticed that on the moments when the actress blinks, the mask is looking a little bit too sharp, so I found the moments when she's blinking and I animated the mask feather property. So basically the way I did it is I set the start and end keyframe so that the settings remain the same, and in between those keyframes I feathered the mask out a lot more so that it's smoother and more blended. So the next thing I did is I duplicated the original raw clip 2 times, put it on top, and I changed the tracking mat to solids, right and left eyes. Then I changed the blending mode to color, and I really liked how it blended things together. Then I noticed that the mask didn't really look as detailed anymore, so I added a unsharp mask effect, played around with the settings until I was satisfied with the result, and that actually changed so much. I moved the unsharp mask effect beneath the match grain effect. And that's actually pretty much it. After that, I was pretty much just going back to settings and adjusting things, maybe adjusting curves, adjusting mask feathers, mask expansions, and so on. So I adjusted the curves, the masks, I made sure that everything is looking the way I want it to look, and that was pretty much it. Then it was just color grading. By the way, if you guys have any tutorial requests or things you want us to cover in general, make sure to comment them below this video. And that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope that you learned something new today. Don't forget that you can really help the channel grow by just subscribing, liking the video, commenting, and clicking the notification bell to not miss any of the future uploads. And I just really wanted to thank you guys again for staying here on this channel, and I really hope that you like what we have in store, because we have a lot. This company has been in the works for a few years now, and I have actually already filmed all tutorials in 2023 with Megan in London. So now we're just going to be releasing them one by one, and I really hope you guys like them. They're pretty awesome. They are. I'm just so incredibly excited about the launch of this brand. You have no idea. I think it's gonna be awesome, and I think we will grow this channel together. So I'm really excited for that, and I'll see you in the next video.